Hey guys, and welcome back to another tier list video. Just something before the video starts, and if you want to skip this, there will be a chapter to do so. I'm doing a giveaway at 500 subscribers, and we're pretty damn close to it, so honestly I think we can reach it by next week. So join my Discord to join it, and so you want to, well, I guess I'll just actually tell you. So right now it's a Cripblade, Grand Siduriska, and Light Swaddle. Now I know it's not much, but I'm kinda broke. But yeah, so let's get into it. This is the enchant tier list, and it will only be covering weapon enchants, because I'm not very well versed in armor enchants, and just in general, in my opinion, they're a lot less common and a lot less useful than weapon enchants. And this will be ranked on PvP, so there won't be regard to PvE. So of course, enchants like Astral or Arizona have to go into D tier. I wish, but like, I don't know, it kinda sucks, but yeah. Okay, so to start things off, we have Deferred. And Deferred is a classic. It's been good for forever. It makes you deal 10% more damage just so you have prolonged damage. And now, initially you might think that the prolonged damage is a nerf, but in some cases it's actually a buff. Because there's a lot of talents in the game that synergize where if an opponent is taking damage and they do an action, for example, like, I believe there's a talent where if your opponent faints and you hit them, they get dazed. And with Deferred, if they faint when it's active, then they just get dazed. So it's a very good enchant, it does a lot of damage, and it's very good for mind games too, because your opponent will be constantly checking their HP and then they won't play as well. I'm gonna say it's an A tier. Next, we have Astral, and sadly I have to put it in D tier because this is for PvP. Now for PvE, obviously it'd be S tier. Blazon. Blazon is really good right now. If you're going to just create a build, it's honestly S tier, but if you're, I'm just gonna say like normal all around as an average. If you're going Flame, it's also S tier, but it does good damage, and it kind of like makes your opponent roll more, which with the nerfs against roll-in now, if you can get your opponent to use their ghosts and then hit them with like a multi-hit, it's pretty damn good, and it almost for sure hits every time. Besides that, you slap a deep fire on and you're basically just doing 10% extra health to them per fight anyway. So I'm gonna say it's A tier. I'd say it's below Deferred, but depending on your build, it's honestly the best enchant choice. Next is Nemesis, and Nemesis is very situational. Now, Nemesis is only good if criticals are bad, pretty much, or you have a high dealing damage weapon or some kind of crazy combo idea. I know people like to use it with the Curse Cleave or whatever, like the really big greatsword, because it does a crap ton of damage. Now it kind of like falls off with light, so it's best with heavy, worst with light, and okay with medium, but overall it's well rounded and you can definitely use it. A tier is kind of popular, but it is A tier. Next is Shilin, and depending on your build, again, this can be better. Because with crystallization it applies crystals, and with Saint J and stuff like that. Now, but even so, it's not really as good as like the equivalent of Blazon in my opinion. So it's still a really good enchant, and even without ice you can still use it, but it's kind of overshadowed by some of the other enchants, and for that is going in B tier. Next we have Grim. And Grim is also a very situational enchant, due to it requiring multiple hits of proc. Now if you're going something like Pale Briar, Grim is without a doubt one of the best enchants for it. Same with Daggers, although honestly Daggers kinda not really. Now Grim, if you're going PvE, really good, but obviously it's for PvP. And it's a really well-rounded enchants, but it kind of lacks ability to proc. besides that, it's B tier, because when it does proc, it's really good. Heroism is next, and it's kind of mid, not gonna lie. The issue with it is that it's kind of just falls off midway through the fight. Like, sure, you're gonna be doing like 20% more damage, I think it is, for like 3 hits, and then you're not gonna be doing any more damage for the rest of your hits. You're better off going Deferred or Bloodthirsty, really. And even for PvE, which people thought it was good initially for, it actually scales down, so it only does like 5% more damage. I mean, you can use it, but it's C tier. You're better off re-rolling it. Detonation. Detonation is crazy. It's been good forever, and it does true damage as well, I believe. So no negation works on it. It also does 500% of your weapon's M1 damage, which is crazy on high dealing weapons. You can do like a full bar with a detonation proc. It is really good on certain builds. And for that, easy S tier. Next we have Stone, and it's also a bit of a situational enchant. If you have a build that does a lot of posture damage, by all means go and grab it. And if you have like Collapsed Lung, yeah, sure. But if you don't, you're basically just trading off extra damage for like a 1-second stun. So in my opinion, you're better off going like Bloodthirsty or Deferred or something that just is a direct damage upgrade, because you're gonna be doing that extra damage anyway, and then you just don't need to block break your opponent. So for that, it's gonna go middle of B tier. It is still an amazing enchant, but depending on your build, it can kind of suck. Next is Elastic, and Elastic's kind of a gimmick enchant, I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't really do much. Pulling your opponent in is nice, but most people know how to deal with it. And there's nothing really to say about it, but I definitely want to say it's B tier. Next is Gluttony? Yeah, it's Gluttony. And Gluttony is also kind of a gimmick enchant. If you're like a water build, which don't really exist anymore because Fishman doesn't really do anything, it's good, but besides that, like, your opponent's vision is worse. There's kind of a synergy of Flame, where it heals your food, so then you can use more mantras. But if you just carry like mushroom omelets or something, you're gonna be fine, you know. So I'm gonna say it's bottom of C tier. It's usable, but it's not really usable. Next is Metal, and Metal is really good. Now, stripping away your opponent's armor and getting it ever so closer to doing true damage essentially makes it the best enchant, because after all, most people have like 27% resistance, right? So if you negate their damage, their resistance, you're essentially just doing 27% more passive damage, and that's better than every single other enchant here. The only thing that it comes down to is that it takes a few hits to remove armor, but with Scrap Singer, this is crazy because Scrap Singer already reduces an increased amount of armor. And overall Metal's just really good. It kind of fell off in the meta a little bit, I think, but it used to be easily the best enchant in the game. But I'm gonna put it in top of A tier. Next is Seer, and honestly, I don't really know how this enchant works. I believe it builds up pen stacks the more you M1, but it's kind of just like Grim, but for pen. But I'm pretty sure it's more passive though. You're better off just going like any enchant that increases your damage or like detonation. But I'm gonna say it's probably bottom of B tier. It's definitely not a C tier, because it's definitely usable. Next is Heroin, and this is added during Holotide, and it's kind of mid. I mean, it actually does nothing besides hiding information from your opponent, but if your opponent just locks in, like, you're fine. really all it does is play mind games, and if your opponent doesn't abide by your mind games, then it does nothing, so. But you can still use it, I wouldn't personally. But I'm just gonna put it in top of C tier, because if you can get your opponent, like, I don't know the right word for it, but like focus on their HP bar, then they're just not taking a free hit. Next is Umbral Knight, and it kind of fell off in the meta a little bit. Like, people used to use Umbral Knight on high damage builds, in multiplier builds, because the stack on it is crazy, but now people just go Detonation. It's pretty good, but there's definitely better options. But it's definitely a B tier. I'd say probably above C. Actually no, above Elastic. Next is Storm, and Storm is really, really good. The stun it applies, and also if you're going to Lightning build, it procs all the Lightning talents. Really good at enchants, just overall well balanced. I'd say it's bottom of A tier. Next off is actually, oh, that's Solar. Okay, yeah, Solar is really good. It's seen an uprise in the meta recently, and the ability to steal tempo and just have a bunch of vents is amazing. Deepwoken has turned into a more combo-oriented game as of recent, and Solar really makes it so that you can land combos. Now, of course, I'd still think there's better options, but it's easily an A tier. You can definitely use it, and on some weapons it thrives heavily, like Spear. But yeah. Next is Obfuscation, and Obfuscation has always been good. It previously made your weapon swing faster, and that made it easily the best enchant in the game, but it doesn't do that anymore. Now it just gives you a speed boost and a bunch of ship damage, but that's still really good because of Speed Demon and Sheep Shot. And making your weapon invisible does actually help to hide it a little bit, although not really. And it's probably just above Deferred. Next is Stormbreaker, and Stormbreaker is another gimmick enchant, I'd say. It is very good, but you're kinda screwed if your opponent knows how to deal with it. It does a ton of damage, and for some reason your weapon turns invisible. Just nobody uses Stormbreakers, so they've never really fixed it. Besides that, top of C tier. There's not really much to say about it. Next is Providence Thorns, and it's actually kind of underrated. A lot of people don't realize that Providence Thorns is percent based, meaning no matter how much HP you have, it will always do the same percent of your HP. So on proc it is 4% of your HP, and that's pretty good considering that it procs at least like 10 times per match. So if you get hit by all of them, that's literally 40% of your HP gone right there. So people like to use this on low investment builds, and honestly, it is really good. I'm gonna say, depending on your build, it can be above or below Deferred, but I'm gonna put it below, just as a general statement. Next is Vampirism, and Vampirism kind of fell off in verse 2, but it's kind of back up now. Because in verse 2 dropped, almost everybody ran All the Dead Gods on meta builds, and that kind of negated the point of Vampirism. But now that All the Dead Gods is nerfed when you shrine it, it's kind of back up, so you can definitely use it now. Now, of course free HP is free HP at the end of the day, but you might as well, in my opinion, be doing more damage than healing less than you'd be doing, if that makes sense. So I'd say it's top of B tier. Depending on your build, it can be really good if you do a lot of M1 damage, all that stuff. Next is Tears of Eden Kite, and Tears is actually pretty good depending on your weapon. You kind of have to have like a really good crit for it to ever land, like Shattered Crit for example. They do a ton of damage too. and they auto track too. So it's actually kind of crazy. I'm gonna put it just below Providence Thorns in A tier. Actually, below Blazon. It's very good. And yeah. Next is Obfuscation, and sorry, no, that's actually Wild. Never mind, sorry, did the Obfuscation. Wild is absolute trash. It's it makes you do like 10% in AoE damage. But first of all, if you're in a guild fight, most of the time people next to you are outside of that range, and you're better off going a different enchant for boss raiding anyway. It's not even good in PvE either, so like top of D tier, I guess. Never use this enchant, by the way. If you get it, just use it for the blast. Next is Bloodthirsty, and it's kind of up in that right now. They made it so it just takes your blood away, and for that it's basically just an upright 10% more damage. Now, I wouldn't say it's better than Deferred, although it does instant damage, just because how Deferred has the multi, like, the hit stun kind of thing, if that makes sense. But it's definitely an A tier. I don't really know where it stands in A tier, so I'm just gonna put it in the bottom right now, but you could definitely move it up. Next is Curse of Young Shoal, and Curse of Young Shoal is good for like 2 reasons. Light weapons and multi-hit criticals. And for those reasons alone, it gets S tier. It does way too much damage. It is kinda crazy. The procs, I don't know why they do that much. Because you're just, like, the chance for you to hit yourself is so rare. You're just gonna be doing so much damage to your opponent, it is broken. Next is Curse of the No Life King, and it's good for Overworld, but not for Shime, because it doesn't work in Shime. It also heals 1% like every 4 seconds. There's something like that. I think it's actually like every 2. But like, if you're a depth skanker build, this is the best enchant. Now, I don't condone depth skanking, but to each their own. Anyway, I'd say it's probably B tier, just below Umbral Knight. Alright, last is Curse of the Unbidden. And I honestly fail to see the reason to go Curse of the Unbidden. I know it gives you like a damage negation and stuff, but again, like, if you just go Vampirism, like, you're gonna be healing more than your damage negation negates anyway. Or just go like Deferred, you're gonna be dealing more damage than your damage negation would have reduced. So, it's gonna be B tier for me, just above Elastic. It's not good, but I guess you can use it. So yeah. So anyway, let me make some last tier changes. I think I'm gonna move Obfuscation up to S. And Metal, yeah, Metal can stay. Yeah, I think that's good. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe if you enjoy videos like these, and I'll see you later.